While it does represent somewhat less maintenance than a regularly manicured lawn or formal landscape, the prairie does still require some maintenance to stay healthy, vibrant, and an ongoing living, breathing ecosystem. At the Agudasakim Cemetery, Impact 7G was brought on to be able to manage this prairie and to ensure that it stayed as beautiful and high functioning, the same kind of habitat that they initially envisioned moving forward. Each year, Impact 7G will come out here and provide 3 monitoring and maintenance visits to ensure the continued health of this prairie establishment. When you're choosing the plants for your prairie, you'll have the choice of installing your prairie and establishing your prairie from seed, or what we call plugs. Plugs are just what they sound like, very small plants that oftentimes will come in flats of 16 or 32 or even more plants. To establish a large planting like this, it makes the most sense both economically and environmentally to start that prairie from seed and grow it in that way. A seeded prairie is going to take from 2 to 4 years to establish and to start to resemble what we see here. Planting from plugs, and especially when you're planting a small garden, you may want to have that impact quicker than 2 to 4 years. Purchasing plugs from a nursery that's close to you, and when we mean close to you, we think about being on the same latitude that you're located at. There's the notion of the genotype, or the same type of seed that's adapted to growing in your area. Look for a nursery that's as close to you as you can possibly get. We know that they don't exist everywhere, but if you live in Iowa, for example, it's probably not a great idea to be ordering your seed from Florida. Those plants, even if they do grow here, may not be well adjusted to the types of weather extremes that we have in our environment. Prairies can be established in a few different ways. It's most common in our area, especially for a larger prairie like this, to be established by first eradicating the vegetation that existed there, which is frequently non-native turf grass, non-native plants, those types of things. Controlling that with an herbicide application, and then monitoring that over the time period of establishment and grow in to be sure that the native plants have an opportunity to grow in and establish. Burning an established prairie can serve a number of functions. Importantly, in an ecosystem like this, it can reduce the amount of accumulated debris, which could, after time, inhibit the regeneration of certain plant materials coming up. As we burn that, it will also take care of some invasives. Woody invasive trees such as walnuts, white mulberry can pop up in a prairie like this just from birds flying over, so we need to control those. And the way we do that, the way we can do that, is with a burning.
So my name's Lisa Stark. I am the Education and Outreach Coordinator with Iowa Valley Resource Conservation and Development. And we are in charge of managing the historic Poor Farm, which is a 160-acre farm in which we have our charitable education farm called Grow Johnson County. We grow 6 acres of organic vegetables and donate those to organizations throughout Johnson County. And we rely on a lot of volunteer support and really want to educate people about sustainable farming practices. And part of that sustainable farming practices includes habitat and combining farms with ecosystems. And so we've got this 15-acre prairie out here that we're going to be burning today. It's a really good management tool for the health of the prairie. It blackens the soil, so it allows seeds to germinate much earlier, and the fire actually stimulates some of the forbs, some of the wildflowers, to produce more seeds, which is always a beneficial thing.
The use of prescribed fire or controlled burns on prairies is a tool that we use to manage prairies in a modern environment where fire is typically controlled. Pre-European settlement, fire used to rage across the tall grass prairie, either because of lightning strikes, that kind of thing, or the indigenous populations learned how to use fire to kind of control and manage their environment. What we're doing, because we can't burn and there isn't natural fire sweeping through, is that there are methods for controlling a fire and doing it in a way that manages and benefits a prairie environment. And that could be that it's burning off the previous years or previous several years' growth to be of an advantage to forbs, flowers, pollinator kind of plants, and to kind of manage that balance between grasses and flowers in a prairie environment in what used to be the tall grass prairie across the state of Iowa. What are the advantages of burning a prairie? As you can see here, this plant material needs to go somewhere after it dies. And in the native environment, when Iowa was covered by a native landscape, these areas would be controlled by frequent fire, covering the area, sweeping through, and then burning off what we call the duff, or the layer of plant material underneath, so that the new species could come up and thrive. What a burn can do oftentimes is to pop open the seed husks on the prairie seeds that have dropped before, encouraging their development and their sprouting. And you can see here a lot of great flowers have come out of that this year. That burn was done in April of this year, and we're filming this in August. So we're seeing a great succession of the late summer blooms. What we've seen out here monitoring this is early season golden alexanders and partridge pea, and now we're getting into the blooming of the goldenrod, the sunflowers. We see a number of silphium species out here. So this is a very, very healthy prairie, but it takes maintenance to be able to do that. Considering whether or not or where to put a prairie restoration or prairie establishment, we hear often that folks are concerned about kind of the wildness of just a native prairie area that's let go to its own devices. And you can see here in the cemetery setting that it is possible to contain that kind of wild setting by mown paths. This is within, as you can see, there's the driveway around here, and certainly there's the formality of a cemetery going on. But in these areas, we can create a border around it that creates a look that's formal. It also, in terms of maintenance, makes it easier to keep it off of the paved areas that need to stay clean for people coming through here. The prairie that you see behind me was planted nearly 30 years ago, but it's still on a maintenance regimen of about 3 visits per year to ensure that invasive non-natives don't come in and start to take over all the progress that's been made. Contracting with a company that provides those kinds of services, that has the knowledge to identify those plants and to know what best approaches to use to be able to control that to ensure the continued success of the prairie is very, very important.